We draw to the end, or near to the end. We have one last keynote speaker, and I'm delighted to say that it's Simon Thomas. He's the head concierge at the Lanesborough in London, also the first vice president of Les Clés d'Or, the Association of Concierges, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about them. You know, we've been wondering, I think each of us in the audience has been wondering what the definition of true luxury is. And I think the answer has changed for some of us over the course of the last 2 days. But I feel relatively confident that at the end of this presentation, you're going to think the definition of true luxury is knowing Simon Thomas.
Thank you very much. That's an awfully big announcement, isn't it? I've got a lot to prove, and you know, coming up on stage here, you've had CEOs, you've had astronauts, and then you get your poor old humble concierge. So I've got to make things count, I suppose, haven't I? I've got to say that Sam, I've noticed you're slightly fickle. You're slightly fickle. Well, you know, Beth gets up on stage, Beth Moses, and you want to be an astronaut. James gets up on stage, and you want to be his multimedia director for the Sumba Islands. So I'm hoping you're going to be a concierge after this. Yeah. Anyway, so what is a concierge? Specifically, what is a Les Clés d'Or concierge? I like to refer to a concierge as a swimming pool, similar to a swimming pool. No? Usually get a gasp from the audience at that one. Right, the reason I say that is 9 out of 10 guests want to know that there's a swimming pool in your hotel, or if you've got a swimming pool in your hotel. Out of that 9 out of 10, probably 2 will end up using it. And it's similar with a concierge. You want to know there's a concierge there in your hotel, and probably out of those people, only 1 or 2 will actually end up using the concierge. So it's a great resource wasted. Does anyone know what Virtuoso is? Has anyone heard of Virtuoso? Yeah. Who are the ones that have been to the actual conference? It's hell on wheels. Let me tell you about it. It's 4,000 travel agents, would I be right? About 4,000 travel agents, and about a similar amount of vendors trying to get the business off these travel agents. You know, hotels being the main part of that. So I was there as a guest speaker for the Les Clés d'Or. What's the reason that we should have a concierge? And there I am giving my little speech on the benefits of a concierge, because often concierge is seen as sort of adversarial to travel agents. You know, we're sort of in the same kind of league. They want to enhance the guest stay, and so do we. And sometimes we can come into conflict there. So as I'm giving the whys and wherefores of the concierge, this lady jumps up from Sofitel. I'm going to mention the company because I still hold a grudge. This lady jumps up and she says, well, why do I need a concierge? What on earth do I need a concierge for? I've got TripAdvisor. I've got Google. You know, I can find out all the information. I said, you know, you've got a point. And, you know, she did. She did have a point. I said, I've been in Vegas now with my family for 2 weeks. I've got to say, at that time, my daughter was 7 years old. That's a tough gig. Trying to find things to do for 2 weeks in Vegas with a 7-year-old, tough gig. Anyway, so I said that, you know, I've been in Vegas for 2 weeks, and every night we've looked for a restaurant to go to, and I've gone and hassled the poor concierge at the Vidara Hotel, great hotel, and he's given me great recommendations. So this one night I'm coming downstairs, and he's busy. He's really busy. He's jammed, you know. He's chock-a-block guests right up against his desk, and you know I'm not going to get to see him. And I think the same thing. Well, you know, I'm a concierge. I can have a look at Google. I can have a look at TripAdvisor. So I said to this lady, I said, do you know what the #1 restaurant in Vegas is on TripAdvisor? And she went, no. I said, well, it's not Guy Savoy. It's not him. She went, right, okay. I said, it's not Gordon Ramsay. It's not Wolfgang Puck. It's Roy's Hawaiian Steakhouse. It's Roy's Hawaiian Steakhouse. So it goes to show you need that personal element. You need someone who understands the information coming through. And this is what a concierge does. He puts a personal face to the business. He adds that luxury to your stay. He'll add that benefit, that personal benefit. You know, I'll give you a prime example. If you go to the concierge and you ask for an Italian restaurant, And he gives you 5 restaurants, one after the other. Bang, 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 you know. You can go to Santini's, Signor Sassi. I'm mentioning all the restaurants that Puri goes to. And you rattle off 5 restaurants. That guest is no better informed than they were when they walked up to that concierge. They still have no idea where they should be going. What you want to do, or what you want to feel as a customer, is you want the concierge to sort of weigh you up and say, right, okay, you know where you should be going tonight? You should be going to Santini restaurant. It suits you down to the ground. You'll love it. And off you go. And that's the confidence that you want. You know, the other thing is with the concierge, and we touched on this earlier. I was speaking to someone not so long ago. And, you know, you can book a room a year in advance. One night stay at the Lanesborough. It'll cost you a few quid, but... one night stay at the Lanesborough, and you can ring up that concierge a year in advance and ask him what the weather's going to be like, what the best show is in town, and you know what? He's not going to charge you a dime. You know, and everything in the hotel at the moment, everything you touch in a hotel, usually costs you money. This is one of the free services that a concierge will give away, or the hotel will give away, is the concierge, and that is an expert, an out-and-out expert on that city. Right, I just want to show you a quick video. This was done by a very good friend of mine called Tom Wolfe out of San Francisco. And it was released at our Congress that we just had in Dubai, where you had 700 concierges from around the world gather for our Congress. We have one of these every year, and it was absolutely fabulous. So I'm just going to roll VT.
It is perhaps the most wonderful profession in the world. It requires the givingness of a nurse, the dedication of a teacher, and the patience of a saint. It is a day that begins in the wee small hours of the morning and is over when the last guest is taken care of. It is not a job or a business or work in the strict sense of the word, yet it involves all three. A profession whose description is open-ended, taking care of a distinguished visitor while offering comfort to the grief-stricken. Advisor and counselor, matchmaker, tracer of obscure places, fixer of broken spectacles, last-minute wedding planner, and weaver of dreams. By daybreak, we are already in touch with guests and colleagues from around the world, yet still have had a chance to pause and say, good morning, to our neighbor on the hill. Aside from the usual chores of making reservations, arranging transportation, and sharing this lovely city with our many visitors, we must still apologize, analyze, tranquilize, and catalyze, doing it all with a smile on our face. We also take pride in giving back to our community. Helping those less fortunate is part of our mandate. Our brief is also to groom and mentor the next generation of practitioners of this art, keeping the flame of service alive, and passing along the skills of being the best, of being on our game every day, every moment, every time. The reward for all our endeavors is perhaps not so easy to measure. It is the satisfaction of knowing that somehow, somewhere, sometime, we made a difference. It is what we do.
So you can see concierge are quite passionate about what they do, and it shows itself through our organisation. I quickly just want to run through a few slides to tell you about Les Clés d'Or. I'm not going to dwell too long on this because I'd rather get onto the fun stuff and tell you about some of the things we get up to at the hotel. So basically, the conciergerie in Paris. So concierge, it's the keeper of the keys. So if you want to really run a concierge down into the ground when you're at your fancy hotel and he's being a little bit snooty, tell him he's nothing more than a jailer. So basically, concierge started off in the early 20th century as people started to travel, as travel expanded through Europe and from the States. It became that these people would arrive at hotels and there may be a doorman or a porter that was slightly more better versed, had a second language, knew his city a little better. And that guy became the concierge. And this profession started to grow. We see in 1919 there was 3 chaps that made their way from Switzerland and started in this profession. And this was the reason I mention this is because they were the guys that actually started Les Clés d'Or, the Concierge Society, up. So when the first original meeting was back in 1929 in Paris, there's actually rumour that our organisation actually started in Sweden, would you believe, in 1926. I was out there celebrating their 90th anniversary of the Swedish section, so the French, unfortunately, getting beaten to the punch there. So basically, the society went on. They had a number of meetings, and it sort of continued to grow. And then sort of war broke out, and that put everything on hold. Shortly after that, in 1952, there was a gathering of the major European countries at that time, and we see the first burgeoning start of the Clés d'Or. These are our values. Now, I come to this. I just want to stop there for a quick moment. To become a Les Clés d'Or concierge, it's not just a matter of signing up. So you need to be a concierge for 5 years before you can actually apply. Then you apply to your local organization. So in Singapore, they have their own society. In Britain, we have ours, and Paris, and so on. And you have to be a member for 5 years. You apply with a seconder and a proposer. They need to be existing members of the organization for 3 years prior to that. Once you do that, you get invited in for an interview, and your knowledge is tested. If your knowledge passes muster, your name is then put forward to the membership, and as long as you're of good character, you then will get your keys. There's about a 50% fail rate, so it's not a given that you're going to get in. We are keeping the standards quite high, and we're hoping to keep this sort of aspirational quality of Les Clés d'Or strong. So I just wanted to touch on that. You can see the evolution as we go from a European-based organisation into an international-based organisation. Originally, it was Union Internationale des Porteurs de Grand Hôtel, and then it became an international organisation rather than European-based. It was, funny enough, it was only in 1978 that the US became a member of Clés d'Or, so it was fairly recent in the whole scheme of our organisation. You can see there how we grew. In 1952, you see the founding countries there, and then it was still pretty much still a European-based, and then it went to Morocco, obviously because of the French influence, Israel, Portugal, and so on. So this is the current executive committee of the International Les Clés d'Or. You'll see that good-looking fella there at the top there, soon to be international president, I hope, as long as I don't do anything wrong and don't tell you too many secrets today. These are our countries that are currently members. You'll see that some interesting ones like Qatar and the UAE, that seems to be the area that's growing for us at the moment. So the Middle East, with all those hotels going in there, that seems to be one of the interesting areas for us. You remember I talked to you about our Congress, where we meet up and we gather. You'll see here that it's been running every single year. I don't think there's a year that was missed that we haven't got together in some way. We had a fantastic Congress in London in 2012, just before the Olympics. A lot of the time, you're helped by the local tourist authority or the local government to host one of these congresses because it's a way of publicising your city to other concierges and to your guests around the world. This one I'm going to touch on very briefly. We have a youth program where we try and get the young concierge of the year through. Each country will have a young concierge of the year. They put him forward. He goes to our congress as an international Young Concierge of the Year. You can see that it's been sponsored by some pretty hefty companies that have helped us on the way. This is roughly how we're split up. Obviously, a big organisation like this isn't just run by that executive committee. It'd be far too much. So we're split into zones similar to a sort of pretty much like an international business. Moving on. This was quite a moment for us. A few years ago, the city, or the little town in Switzerland where those three chaps came from, when I talked about 1919, when these three chaps actually set off, was a little city, a little town in Switzerland called Vissois, and it was named by mayoral proclamation that it was the city of friendship. So we were very proud of that. That was a real moment for our organisation. Another thing I want to touch on is if you look at the last statistic here, 60% of members have been working for a concierge, working as a concierge for 10 years or more. That's a pretty substantial figure. You know, it shows that there's a commitment to the job, that they like the job, and usually they remain in the same hotel. So it's usually the face and profile of the hotel that you actually see the concierge there. Right. So before we move on to the next section, I just want to play this last video. And this is what we're trying to get at is really the service element of it all.
I think that great service is really intuitive.
I have a little philosophy, and that's giving the guest what they want before they even know they want it.
If you respect the produce, you respect yourself and you respect your guest.
If I was to define great service, I would say it's not waiting to be asked to do anything, it's just there.
I think it's the little things that matter, getting to know your clients.
It's about the whole experience, that real moment of thrill that you get from connecting a film with an audience.
Local crews have welcomed us in an amazing way, and sometimes you do think, gosh, that's above and beyond.
The feeling to me is very intense. You've mattered to someone, you've made a difference, you've made their journey into something special. Great service means to me
Anticipation,
Trust.
The enchantement of the guest.
empathy.
Do I want to be a concierge? No, I want to know a concierge. I want to know a concierge. I'm a journalist. I have too many problems with authority. Talk to me about empathy. What are a guest comes into your hotel. You have to make a lot of calls about who that person is and what he or she is thinking just by sizing them up. Yeah. How do you do that? What are you looking for?
Yeah, well, that's it's quite a tough question, and you know, it's one when I think we're talking about millennials, and we're trying to put people in boxes. We're constantly trying to say this person fits into this box, this person fits into that box. I am absolutely staunchly against it, even though it might work for companies to actually work out which demographic they need to hit. For us on the ground floor, dealing with the actual customer, every single person is an individual. They're an individual, and they've got individual requests, individual preferences, and they have to be treated as such. I think we try and hide our fear, you know. So, for example, we're getting older, young people are getting younger. It's so the way we do it is we give them a name. So we call them millennials because that works for us. They're still individuals. They've still got different tastes and different things.
So the person who comes up looking for an Italian restaurant, you're giving a different answer to each one based on who they appear to be to you through your intuition. That's got to be hard to hire for.
It's ridiculously hard to hire for. I mean, I'm a great believer in succession planning. So I like to hire at the bottom. And I like to hire at the very lowest level and build those people up. I know that they're not.
Sounds like someone I know. That's, I mean, that's how you started, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so I'm putting them all through the same terror that I went through.
Well,
No.
well, describe that terror for us.
No, to be honest with you, I began life as a metal engineer, and moving into hospitality is the best thing I've ever done. The days of it being underpaid, overworked. There's still those elements, but not so much. You know, there's great opportunities. It's got great prospects. There's many people I know that have made it right the way to the top from the very humble beginnings. So I think it's a great life now.
We're at the Lanesboro. I need a baseball, like an actual baseball. I'm giving it to my kid.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be a problem at all.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a cricket ball. If it's a cricket ball, like I'm taking my business elsewhere.
Let me tell you a little story. So we had the Cricket World Cup, and there's two cricketers. One plays for Pakistan and one plays for India. One's called Shahab Akhtar and Wasim Akram. Both of them are the world's fastest bowlers, or they think they are. Someone who's got cricket knowledge will have to back me up on that. That's true, isn't it? Is it true? Anyone know
They
that?
believe
Yeah,
it?
right,
I'll
okay.
take your word.
So and they hate each other. Yeah, one plays for Pakistan, one plays for India. A friend of mine got the cricket ball signed by Wasim Akram, went up and said, "Mr. Akram, would you mind signing this cricket ball?" He went, yeah, sure, not a problem. Signs the cricket ball. Went over to him and saw the other Shahab Akhtar and went, "Mr. Akhtar, would you mind signing this cricket ball?" Turned it round so he couldn't see the signature and got another signature on the other side. So
For a guest?
Yeah, for a guest.
That's
So,
well.
yeah,
how about I need a California state flag? Can you get me that?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would hope so.
What I'm getting at is that sometimes I'm using quintessentially American requests, but there must be some stumpers that come along the way.
I'll give you one of the stories, and there are many. We had one of our Middle East clients staying at the hotel. He is of a royal family of a certain country. I've got to be very careful here what I say. And he's about 27 years old. He's pretty much in line to the throne of this particular country. And his wife was 21 years old, or it's her birthday coming up. And he turns around to me, he said, "Simon," he said, "I've got a stately home just outside of London in Beaconsfield." He said, "I wonder if you could get 21 of the deer from my stately home and get them shipped to my palace in wherever
That place.
In that place.
21 deer.
Yeah, 21 deer for her birthday.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. So I'm like, yes, of course. Thinking, right.
Wow.
And then he turns around to me and goes, "There's only one problem." He says, "We need to get this at least arranged by Wednesday." So,
It's Monday? It's Tuesday?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's Monday morning. So I'm looking at it and thinking, wow, yeah, that's a little bit of a big ask. Right, certainly, leave it to me, And I'm thinking, wow, what do I do here? So I remember taking my daughter out, and we were in a place called Knoll Park in Sevenoaks near London, and there was deer everywhere. So I ring up Knoll Park, and I asked them, "How do you ship deer? What do you do?" And they said, "Well, we haven't got a clue. We don't really ship them. They're just here." So they said, "You might want to contact the Royal Deer Society. There is a Royal Deer Society." So I got in contact with them, and they went, "Well, we don't really ship deer either. You might want to contact a zoo or something." So I get in contact with the local zoo, London Zoo, and I said, shipping deer, and they thought I was absolutely mad. After the laughter stopped, they then put me in touch with this chap, a Dr. Richard Jones, let's call him for want of a better name, up in Scotland. And basically, I got in touch with this guy, and he does this for zoos. He ships animals of that elk. He ships them around the world for zoos. So I explained the story to him, and he went, "Right, okay, I think I've got it."
Anyway, Google can't do that.
Yeah. The prince came back, and this is where it really hurts actually. But the prince came back in the afternoon, and I said, "Right, I've done it. I've got it all organised. We just need to put this guy on retainer, and we need to talk about how we're going to transportation and everything else." And he went, right, okay. He said, who have you got? What's the name? I went, it's Dr. Richard Jones, and showed him the piece of paper. He said, yeah, same name I've got. So obviously he had his guys working on it at the stately home. He just wanted to see how good I was. Yeah, so we had a few terse words. Obviously you've got to be careful when you're speaking to a royal. But,
so he was testing you a little bit, and then you test young up-and-comers. And I was curious when you mentioned that, what in London they call it the knowledge for the cabbies. They have to have the knowledge. And what are you looking for? What is the knowledge? Can you give some examples of questions you might ask a prospective? Would they be as stupid as mine about baseballs and California state flags?
Well, I don't want to see that. I mean, these are the one in a million things that happen.
Yeah.
And what I want to see is a genuine empathy with the guest, a connection, an understanding. I want to see the barriers come down. You know, the yes or no.
That's to the style of questioning after the question is asked.
Yeah. You know, there's this whole thing about how much you can train and how much people have natural ability to do something, especially in the service industry. And I think with concierge, it is so much that, you know, you either got it or you haven't.
So Danny Meyer, the American restaurateur, says that to work in his restaurants, 49% of it they can teach you to do, even if you've never worked in a restaurant before. But they're hiring for the 51%. And what is that 51%? Is it all empathy? It must be more than that.
I do think a major part of it is empathy, but it's your personality. You've got to want to do it. You've got to enjoy doing it. You know, it's got to be a passion. It can't be something that's forced upon you. You know, there's some really, you might get asked the same ridiculous question over and over again. You can't then get upset by that. You know, it's got to be it's got to be part of your service ethic to sort of deliver this service. You know.
I noted in the statistics that just 17% of Clé d'Or members are female. Is that a number that is likely to go up, or has it been going up, or is this a problem?
It is a problem. It is. I'll be very honest. It is a problem because I believe you've got to be dynamic, and you need to serve all types of guests. The fact that we don't have very many female concierge means that we're not being dynamic. The problem is when you've got countries the same as UK and France, where it's sort of dead men's shoes. You start off at the bottom end of the ladder and work your way up. So you start as a luggage porter and then you work your way up, and your knowledge is built on that. It's very difficult for the female candidates to come through. It's not something they want to do, start carrying bags around, even though, you know, it's perfectly open to that. Whereas in the States, when people come in from a guest relations route and don't come in from luggage portering or a bellman, as they call it, there's far more. In fact, it's way over 50% in the States, female concierge. So it's just the sort of old-fashioned route that we have in
Britain
Europe,
and France.
In Europe,
yeah. Interesting. I could ask this guy questions all day and eventually get him to reveal a secret. I really could. Do you want to see me? Should we spend an hour and break him? Or should we take some questions from the audience before we go to lunch? I think we should do the latter, because I would feel bad. It's part of their whole thing that they don't tell you the story. And I could ask, rock stars, he dealt with a lot of rock stars.
Well, let me give you one story.
Let
me give you a story. So this is a little secret. We sent out a car to pick up off a private jet.
As one does.
Yeah, a lot of our guests fly in on their own jets. Unfortunately, our car got stuck in a bit of traffic on the way to the airport. I happen to know the chief air traffic controller quite well at the airport. So I rang him up and I said, you know, you've got this jet coming in from Geneva. I said, you wouldn't mind sending it around a couple more times, would you? So I had this plane flying around until my car actually got there, and yeah, you can land him now. So no one knows that. Yeah, you can see I'm blushing now. You know, the sweat's starting to show.
That's brilliant service. I guess that's a head fake.
Yeah.
So you arrive as relief from the tyranny of having to fly around flying around that you yourself set up.
Yeah.
That is really quite. That is really quite good. Can we top that with a question, or should we ask for one more anecdote from our guest? We are asking one more anecdote.
One more anecdote. Okay. So we talk. There's lots of things we've done for rich people, and it's
haven't we all?
Yeah, it's you know, it's like all these things. If you've got a problem, you throw enough money at it. Sooner or later, you can sort of fix it. But I want to tell you a little story about a guest that was staying with me at a previous hotel that I worked in, and having a young daughter and knowing their demands when daddy's away. It's quite a lot. So. He turned around to me and he was heading back to, I think it was Seattle, and he asked me, he said, can you get me a copy of the Beano? He said, I haven't had time to go out. Does everyone know what the Beano is? Anyone know? Right. Okay, so it's a very British comic, very specific to Britain. It's not like superheroes. It's quite slapstick, very funny, you know, for kids. It's what I grew up on. You can tell, can't you? Anyway, so. I said, yeah, sure, not a problem. So I just sent one of my page boys around town to go and find a copy of the Beano. It's not really something you're going to find in central London, you know. It's not, you can't, you know, these businessmen and financiers and everything else are not really reading the Beano. So after sending these guys around London, we turned up that we can't get it. We can't get it. So we're going to have to go to the suburbs. So I spoke to my doorman. My doorman was saying that he gets in first thing in the morning, just before this guy leaves, which was about 7 o'clock. And he was going to pick it up from his local newsagents and bring it in. On the way in, unfortunately, he got caught in traffic and missed this guy. So the poor guy has had to leave without his copy of the Beano. So I was determined it wasn't going to finish there. You can't let it finish there. So we FedExed this copy of the Beano, and I've got to tell you, it's about 50p, or about one Singapore dollar. For the magazine, it was about $50 to send it by FedEx, but that's besides the point. So we sent it by FedEx, and the way it went, the routing, the FedEx envelope actually arrived before he did. And anyway, he said he came home and went to his son, you know, I'm really sorry, I couldn't get you a copy of the Beano. He goes, no, Daddy, I've got it. So, and that was, for me, that is one of those wow moments. That's more important than all these 21 deer and all the things that we've had to do for all the rich people. So,
but the 21 deer was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I have to say. Simon's going to join us for lunch, and we're gonna hear some final remarks, and then we're gonna have a nice meal. And it has been a real pleasure and honor to be with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.